Welcome to Restoria. I'm Jenna, and this is your cozy corner for gentle bedtime stories. Each night, I'll share peaceful tales made to quiet your thoughts and guide you softly into sleep. So settle in, get comfy, and let the story carry you into rest. The story tonight is called 7 Nights Afloat, Chapter 1. The room by the sea. The room hums with a quiet kind of welcome. Not loud or sudden, but something softer, the hush of air conditioning, mixing with the distant lull of waves below. The door closes gently behind them. Mila sets her bag down first. Jonas follows a few steps behind, slower, as if already sensing the shift this place is offering. Light comes in sideways through the large window. The ocean gleams with late afternoon brightness, not harsh, but golden, like butter melting over blue. Their room isn't large, but it wraps around them like a held breath. Wooden panels line the walls, warm and faintly honey-scented. The bed is made up in soft cream linens, a hint of lavender rising from the pillows. There's a love seat under the window. A soft wool throw is folded neatly across the back, textured and thick. On the little side table, there's a white porcelain kettle, 2 mugs, and a box of chamomile tea. Mila touches the handle of one mug, then smiles faintly, saying nothing. Jonas opens the closet door and finds 2 pairs of slippers waiting, just their size. They don't speak for a while. It's not silence, exactly just a shared stillness that feels rare. Mila sits on the bed, shoes off, toes curling into the blanket. Jonas walks to the window, leans his forehead against the clasp. Below, the sea stretches out in every direction, stitched with a ship's slow wake. There is something so unfamiliar about having nothing to do. No errands waiting, no emails to return. Just this room, this moment, this gentle hum around them. Mila exhales, not loudly, but long, like she hasn't fully exhaled in months. The kind of breath that clears more than lungs. They'd rushed to pack, rushed to the airport, rushed through customs and boarding lines. But now, here, everything unknots. Jonas turns, finally, and sits beside her. He rests his palm on the bedspread. Feels nice, he murmurs, voice low, barely above the hush around them. Mila leans back, closes her eyes for a moment. Everything does, she whispers. They begin to settle in, not just their things, but themselves. Mila lingers in the small bathroom, rinsing her hands and face, pressing the cool cloth to her eyes. Jonas opens the small fridge and finds 2 bottles of sparkling water inside. He sets them on the table, the glass clinking gently. Later, they unpack slowly, not the usual hurried mess of travel. Each shirt folded into the drawer. Toiletries lined up gently in the small bathroom. Jonas hangs up 2 light sweaters, the wooden hangers clicking softly. Mila finds the slippers again and sets them by the bed. Left and right, side by side, she opens the box of chamomile and inhales, letting the scent drift in like a memory. They won't make tea yet, but just knowing it's there feels like an offering. Outside, the ship begins to move. It's barely perceptible, just a long, slow exhale as the shore falls away. The ocean welcomes them with a hush. They stand together at the window. A white line stretches out behind them now, curling like lace. The sky is starting to blush, the first hints of evening pink brushing against the cloud edges. Jonas places a hand gently on Mila's back. She leans into it, not needing words. The ship sails forward. Their room stays still, and so do they. Chapter 2. Slow morning. Somewhere in the dark, the ship continues its soft, steady movement, a hush of water parting gently beneath. Inside their cabin, it is still, dim. The light through the window has just begun to change, hinting at morning without asking anything of it. Mila stirs first, not all at once, just a slow curl of her hand around the edge of the blanket, a shift of her head against the pillow. Her eyes stay closed. She listens to the small, distant murmur of the ship, to Jonas's even breath beside her, to nothing urgent. Eventually, she opens her eyes. The room is bathed in soft blue, the color of the sea before the sun fully wakes. Outside, the water stretches endlessly, a gentle mirror for the changing sky. Jonas shifts beside her, half asleep. Mila doesn't move much, only enough to brush her fingers lightly across his arm. He hums, not quite a word, not quite a thought, and nestles closer. Neither of them says anything for a long while. There is no need. The morning doesn't ask for action. It only invites them to notice. Eventually, Mila slips from the bed. Her feet find the slippers with practiced ease. The floor is cool underfoot where the sun hasn't touched. She fills the kettle slowly, watching the stream of water fall against porcelain. Clicks it on. As it warms, she opens the window curtains wider. The world outside is waking now, but gently clouds tinged with peach. The horizon still holding its hush. The scent of chamomile begins to drift into the room as the water steams. She pours 2 cups, leaves one by the bed, the other cupped between her palms as she sinks into the window nook. Jonas wakes gradually, sitting up with a sleepy stretch. He finds the tea waiting, smiles without quite opening his eyes, and murmurs a thank you. They sip in silence, the kind that only comes after trust has settled in. Outside their window, the sea keeps moving. Light skims its surface, gold threading across deep blue. A few birds pass overhead, small and unhurried. Somewhere, distant music begins faint piano notes from another part of the ship. Mila leans her head against the glass. The warmth of the tea, the quiet of the room, the sense that time has loosened its grip just for a little while. They have nowhere to be, no tasks to finish, just the day unfolding like soft linen, uncreased, waiting, patient. Jonas joins her in the nook. They sit close, sharing the hush. His leg presses gently against hers. Outside, the water glimmers like something secret. They talk a little, eventually, small things, a dream Jonas only half remembers, a bird Mila saw in the early sky. Their words drift between sips, between looks, never needing to land. Mila traces a finger on the window pane, following the path of a distant wave. Do you think, she says softly, the sea ever gets tired of being the sea? Jonas smiles, then shakes his head slowly. No, he says. I think it rests in its own way. They fall quiet again, watching the horizon stretch without end. And as the morning unfolds, the kettle cools, and the world remains wide and gentle. They stay there wrapped in tea steam, Sunlight and Stillness. Chapter 3, Wandering the Deck. By late morning, the hallway outside is filled with soft footfalls and the occasional clink of coffee cups being carried back to cabins. Mila and Jonas dress slowly, each layer chosen with comfort in mind. He pulls on a light sweater. She wraps a scarf loosely around her shoulders, not for warmth but for softness. They step out together into a world that floats. The corridor glows with gentle lights and polished wood. It smells faintly of salt and something warm, perhaps fresh pastries from the cafe 2 decks down. The elevator hums as it carries them upward. When the doors open, sunlight spills in. The upper deck is wide and bright, with white railings and long rows of lounge chairs. The sea surrounds them completely. Nothing but water and sky as far as the eye can see. There's a breeze, but it's gentle, just enough to move Mila's scarf and lift Jonas's hair. They walk without talking, their steps unhurried. Each section of the deck holds quiet little worlds. A man sketching in a notebook with charcoal-streaked fingers. A couple curled under a blanket on a shared chair. An older woman knitting slowly with sun-faded yarn. No one speaks loudly. The sea does most of the talking. Jonas leans on the railing, gazing out. The horizon is so far, it almost feels like the edge of dreaming. Mila stands beside him, arms folded lightly. A ship's bell rings gently in the distance, not urgent, just present. It carries like a memory through the salty air. They stay like that for a while, breathing, letting the breeze speak into their skin. Eventually, they wander again past a glassy pool where 2 children float in silence, their laughter stored away for later. Past a row of deck chairs where books rest on chests and laps, spines up like sleeping birds. Mila pauses beside a planter filled with rosemary and lavender. She brushes her hand against the leaves, lifts her fingers to her nose. Jonas watches, then does the same. Smells like a quiet garden, he says. She nods. The steward passes by, pushing a cart lined with covered plates. The faintest clatter of cutlery, the scent of warm croissants. He nods as he passes, and they nod back. Even the service here feels like a whisper. They find a spot near the back of the ship, tucked behind a lifeboat and a row of planters. There's a bench here, unclaimed, sun-warmed. They sit, and the view behind them becomes an endless ribbon of churned water, white and foamy, trailing off into the morning. No one passes by. It feels like their own little world drifting quietly on the sea. Mila rests her head on Jonas's shoulder. He leans his cheek against her hair. A gull cries overhead, but even that sound feels softened, as if the sky itself is holding its breath. Together, they listen to the rhythm of water and wind. They say nothing. They don't need to. Jonas closes his eyes for a while, not asleep, just allowing the quiet in. Mila traces the edge of the bench with one fingertip, slowly, feeling the grain of the wood warmed by sun. A soft announcement comes through a distant speaker, something about a poetry reading in the library or a watercolor class on deck 6. The voice is calm, barely more than a murmur. Neither of them stirs. Far out on the horizon, a small sailboat appears, a white triangle stitched into the blue. Jonas points wordlessly, and they watch it until it vanishes into shimmer. Time moves differently out here, not faster or slower, but softer, and they let it carry them. Chapter 4. The cafe in afternoon. The ship's cafe rests in the curve of deck 5, a space shaped like a half moon, glass on one side and warm wood on the other. It is neither grand nor bustling. Instead, it hums with a gentle rhythm, cups set down on saucers, soft conversations, the hiss of milk steaming. Mila and Jonas arrive just after noon. The sun filters through the high windows, catching on the silver edge of teapots and the surface of glazed pastries. The tables are mostly full, but not crowded. They choose a small, round table near the window, 2 chairs, a linen napkin folded neatly between them. Jonas pulls Mila's chair out with one hand, and she touches his wrist in thanks. The menu is simple, elegant script printed on heavy cream cardstock, a list of teas and coffees, sandwiches with soft edges, cakes that seem almost too delicate to cut. They order without much thought 2 cups of Earl Grey, a shared apple tart, something warm with cheese. When the server leaves, they sit back, listening to to the faint jazz threading through hidden speakers, to the clink of forks, to the rain-like rhythm of cutlery and conversation. Outside, the sea is bright but hazy. Sunlight moves through clouds like a curtain, being gently drawn and redrawn. Their food arrives. The tart is warm and golden. Flakes fall like petals when Mila cuts into it. Jonas breaks off a corner, offers it to her with a slow smile. They eat in small bites, unhurried. Occasionally, a soft laugh escapes from a neighboring table. Someone reads quietly by the far wall. A child at another table spins a sugar packet in circles, entirely content. Mila's hands wrap around her tea, fingers lightly fogged by the steam. She leans back and for a while simply watches the way the ocean moves, not toward or away, but always becoming. Jonas scribbles something into a small notebook he'd tucked into his sweater pocket. A phrase, maybe, a sketch. She doesn't ask. He doesn't offer. That, too, is its own kind of peace. They linger, let the plates sit empty in front of them, refill their tea once more. The sky outside softens again, and the glass along the wall glows with it. The server brings them a second tart, compliments of the baker, she says, and smiles. This one is plum and rosemary, a little unexpected, richer, deeper. They share that too, half a bite at a time, letting the flavors sit. At one table, an older couple holds hands across a sugar bowl. They don't speak, just sip and smile. The jazz gives way to something even slower, a piano piece that drifts like mist. Mila closes her eyes for a moment, lets herself drift with it. They don't speak much, not out of silence, but presence. The cafe becomes a cocoon of warmth and small sounds, and in the gentle shelter of it, time again begins to loosen. Chapter 5. Evening Notes. The hallway lights dim slowly as the sun lowers toward the sea. There's no announcement, no signal, just a subtle shift in color and rhythm that invites stillness. Mila and Jonas return to their cabin to change, their footsteps quiet against the carpeted floor. In their room, the air is cool and fragrant. The window shows streaks of pink and amber stretching across the ocean. The ship's wake is still curling softly, as if drawing lace through the water. Mila chooses a soft black dress, the fabric light and simple. Jonas wears a collared shirt, sleeves rolled, the linen pale and relaxed. They dress without hurry. No event to rush toward, only the pull of evening. They walk together through the halls, following the faint strains of music. Piano, low and slow, drifts like scent from an open window. It leads them to the atrium, a tall, glowing space strung with lights that flicker like stars. A pianist plays near the center, seated beside a curved banister of gold and glass. His fingers move like a whisper over the keys. Around him, chairs curve in gentle arc. Some guests sit quietly, others with soft drinks in hand, all washed in the amber light. Mila and Jonas find 2 seats tucked into a corner, not far, but a little apart. Their hands brush as they sit. They leave them touching. The music is familiar, but slow songs they know, but stretched into lullabies. A jazz standard becomes a tender waltz. A film score becomes breath. They watch the pianist's shoulders rise and fall, the way he leans into the soft notes, then eases back. The hush that follows each phrase. Somewhere behind them, ice clinks in a glass. Someone turns a page of a program. A breath is sighed. Jonas closes his eyes. Mila doesn't. She watches the way the light moves across his face, the way the music settles around his shoulders like warmth. They don't speak. They listen. Their breathing aligns with the music's tempo, slower now, like tide returning to shore. The pianist begins a new song, a melody neither of them recognizes, but both feel immediately. Something about it calls up memories they don't need to name. A window open at night, a walk taken in autumn, a scent remembered from someone's sweater. Jonas opens his eyes, looks at Mila. He doesn't say anything, just squeezes her hand gently. She squeezes back. Around them, the room breathes. Soft murmurs, the steady murmur of piano. the light shifting, softening, wrapping the space in honey. When the music pauses, applause rises gentle, restrained, full of gratitude. The pianist nods once, then begins again. Later, they walk back through the quiet halls, not speaking. The music stays with them, echoing softly in the space between their steps. The ship rocks slowly, like a lullaby, continuing long after the song has ended. They reach their room. The window now shows the sky deepening into velvet, a few early stars stitched faintly into the dusk. Jonas draws the curtain halfway, then changes his mind and opens it again. They leave the light off. Mila rests her head on his shoulder once more, the music still humming inside her. Neither of them feels the need to speak, and the evening stretches long and golden around them. Chapter 6. The warmth between. The night deepens, but the world does not grow colder. In their cabin, the stillness is soft, not silent. The low hum of the ship, the distant hush of waves, the occasional creak of the wooden panels, it all folds around them like a lullaby with no need to end. Jonas moves first, not to break the moment, but to shift closer. Mila curls against him, their shared warmth immediate. The bed is layered in cream and dusk. They don't turn on the overhead light. A small lamp glows faintly near the tea table, casting a golden halo across the wood floor. Outside the window, the sea reflects the scattered stars. Jonas reaches for the kettle, fills it without standing. He moves carefully, not to disturb the hush. Mila watches the steam curl from the spout, slow and steady. The scent of chamomile lifts again, soothing, familiar. They sip side by side, leaning against the headboard. The mugs warm their hands, their shoulders touch. It is not a night for plans or questions, not a night for stories or scream, only a night for being here. Jonas murmurs something, a half-thought, a wondering about the stars. Mila nods, then rests her head on his chest. His breath is deep and steady beneath her ear. She thinks of mornings when she woke already braced, evenings when dinner was quiet but not peaceful, moments stolen between responsibilities. Here, there is no need to steal time. It is already theirs. The ship rocks gently, just enough to remind them of movement, of how stillness and motion can live together. She runs a thumb over the rim of her mug. Jonas draws slow circles on her back. Outside, the sea is a mirror, a quiet, dark expanse, catching light, holding it like memory. Their conversation is all breath now, small murmurs, shared warmth, a glance. They do not know what time it is. They do not want to. Eventually, they slide lower beneath the covers. The tea is finished. The stars remain. Jonas shifts slightly, tugging the blanket higher around Mila's shoulder. She sighs, not from tiredness, but from fullness, the kind that comes only when nothing is missing. The soft creak of the ship settles again, a kind of heartbeat in the floor. Even the air seems to slow. Their hands find each other beneath the blanket, their feet too. A light rain begins beyond the window, too light to be heard, but visible in the soft distortion of stars on the glass. It paints shadows on the walls, little rivers of moving light. Mila watches for a while, her eyes heavy-lidded. She feels the rhythm of the rain as something more felt than seen. Jonas murmurs, almost inaudibly, something about wishing the night could be longer. She presses her forehead against his collarbone in reply. The glow of the lamp flickers slightly, then stills. A ship passes in the distance, just a whisper of light across the horizon, gone before it becomes real. And slowly, not because they are tired, but because everything invites them to, they begin to drift, held by the ship, held by the hush, held by each other. The sea carries them onward. Chapter 7. A day for drifting. Morning comes not with urgency, but with gentleness. Light moves across the walls like it too has just woken. The sea outside shifts from navy to dove grey to soft blue, each wave catching the light in its own time. Mila stretches first. Her toes seek warmth beneath the blanket. She smiles when she finds Jonas's foot still there. He stirs, eyes still closed, and presses his heel against hers in quiet acknowledgement. They don't speak. They don't need to. The tea kettle clicks on again, a habit now part of the rhythm of this place. Mila stands wrapped in a throw, watching the water boil. Outside, the sea is glassy and slow. The day drifts like a feather. There's no agenda, just moments that fold gently into one another. They read in bed, books open beside cooling mugs. Mila journals for a while, small loops of handwriting across thick paper. Jonah sketches the corner of the cabin window, the way the curtain gathers light. They speak in fragments, a sentence here, a soft laugh there. No full conversations, just gentle presence. Later, they walk the quieter corridors of the ship. Fewer people today, many must be on shore, taking day trips. But they have chosen to stay, to rest. They visit the little library again. Jonas pulls out a poetry book with a navy spine. Mila finds a collection of essays on the sea. They sit by the window there, a different one now, and read with hands touching knees. By afternoon, the ship passes through a brief rain, just mist, really fine and shining. They watch it beat against the glass and slide away. It never lingers. They linger instead in a quiet lounge, lined with soft chairs and woven blankets. Someone plays harp nearby, slow, cascading notes that seem to match the movement of the ship. Mila dozes for a few minutes, her head against Jonas's shoulder. He doesn't move, just lets her rest. Time doesn't disappear here, it just softens. He quiets, he exhales. In the evening, they return to their room early. There's no need to seek anything else. The sky is already dusky, and the sea below glows faintly with reflections from the ship's lights. Mila sets a candle near the window, its flame steady and small. Jonas places his book beside it. Together, they sit in the window nook and watch the world go by. Not rushing, not reaching, just being carried. Jonas rests his hand on Mila's knee. She covers it with her own. Neither of them blinks for a while, as if even that might disturb the hush. The candle flickers and steadies again. Outside, the water glows where light touches it, gold, then silver, then ink. Mila hums a melody under her breath. Jonas doesn't recognize it, but he listens. It reminds him of the sea. And as night settles again, the hush returns, familiar now, like something remembered rather than discovered. They sleep with the curtain open. Let the stars keep watch. Let the sea whisper them into rest once more. Chapter 8. The quiet glow. The final night comes quietly. Not with any fanfare, not even with announcement, just a deepening of light, a thickening of stillness. The air carries the weight of something known but unspoken. Mila and Jonas move slowly through the evening. Their suitcases are half packed, corners folded, zippers undone. Clothes rest more than they are stored, the motions gentle, not hurried. Dinner is soft and simple. A soup, some bread, something warm with honey. They sit near a window. They watch the sea in its twilight blues. They share bites across the table, not because they need to, but because they want to. Later, they walk the deck one last time. The air is cool and the wind has settled. The ship glides more than it moves. Lights along the rails flicker gently, their reflections dancing on the dark water below. They find the bench from earlier in the week, the one tucked behind the lifeboat. It's empty, waiting. They sit without speaking. The horizon is a blur of navy and velvet. Jonas reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded page, a poem he's been working on. He doesn't read it aloud. He just hands it to Mila. She reads in silence, her hand curled loosely around his. When she finishes, she tucks the page into her coat. No comment, just a long look, soft, with everything words don't need to carry. They stay a little longer than they planned, watching the sea, watching the light shift, letting the moments stretch. They return to their room when the wind grows cooler. The door clicks softly behind them. The candle is already lit, just a flicker now. The window glows with sea and starlight. Jonas changes into an old shirt. Mila into a robe. They move with the kind of closeness that has nothing left to prove. One last cup of tea. One last glance at the deck below. One last breath taken together before the light is lowered. They slip into bed slowly. The ship hums. The sea hushes. The stars hold their watch. They don't fall asleep right away. They simply lie there, hand in hand, watching the dark roll by through the wide window. The lights of the ship shimmer across the glass gold, quiet, tender. There's a silence that feels like presence, not empty, but full. A silence that holds them instead of leaving them. Jonas whispers something not important, not loud, just a thought left gently in the space between them. Mila smiles, eyes still open. They breathe together, slower now, the kind of breathing that knows there's nothing to rush for. The candle's glow reaches the ceiling in soft waves. The sea outside continues its rhythm. The ship, their room, their rest, all cradled in motion. When their eyes finally close, it is not from tiredness, it is from peace. Not an ending, just the softest kind of letting go. The sea carries them onward